So I want to start this video off by saying I am not a financial advisor, but I am an engineer. Joke. But really, I just wanted to talk about how you can achieve financial freedom, retire early, with a few simple tricks. And not really tricks, it's just common sense. But today we have a consumer society and a state that wants you to be a consumer. It wants to enslave you in debt. So your job is to see past that, see past the fads, see past the wants, and see past all that and realize they really don't bring you that much happiness. They bring you fleeting happiness, if any at all. Really, when you think about it, what's the difference between a brand new Audi costing you $80,000 versus buying a used Camry for $15,000? Both will bring you from place A to place B in relative comfort. One will cost you your financial freedom, the other will not. So I wanted to go through some examples today about how to achieve this and how to retire early with a few simple tricks, like I said, and we'll also look at some websites that, for me, in my pursuit of financial freedom, have been very helpful. Actually, there's just one website that I want to look at, and then we'll look at how small savings can be compounded into tens of thousands of dollars, and how that helps you achieve your financial freedom. But the main point I want to emphasize in this video is that the small stuff makes big money and eventually will give you financial freedom. The other point I want to really emphasize here is that you have to have a mindset change. You really do. You cannot go with the consumerism mindset and expect to be financially free, because there's always something more you want. Always a bigger house, a newer car, the newest iPhone. There's always a way to spend the money unless you change your mindset. And I'll go through this and what happened to me and why my mind kind of, since 2013, I've changed my lifestyle big time, and why that happened and what made me come to that realization. So hang in there and watch. And by the way, in the end of the video, I'm going to go through the websites I talked about. And if you know, one of them is called Personal Capital. Sorry, that's the only website I'm going to cover, is the Personal Capital, because I've been using that for years and I really like it. The other that I use as both bank and investment for investment is called Charles Schwab. And I like both of them, and I'll cover Personal Capital and I'll talk a bit about Charles Schwab and why I use that. So anyway, watch the video and hopefully you enjoy it, and we'll go from there. Thanks, bye. And also, if you like the video, please subscribe, comment, and share. And if you don't like it, the video, or if you have something you want to say about it, please comment and I'll get back to you on that. Okay? Thanks. Bye-bye. Bye for now. So to start, there's a very simple expression that I like to use. Maximize your savings and minimize your expenses. The earlier you start in life, the better. I usually say time can be your friend or it can be your enemy, meaning the earlier you start something, the more time is your friend, and the later, the more you procrastinate, the more it's your enemy. And remember, this is about an attitude change, a change in the way of thinking. So let's start about maximizing your savings. This might be obvious, but you need to work as much as possible if you're thinking of retiring early. And what do I mean by that? If you're hourly and you're working 40 hours a week, think about working 60, 70, 80 hours a week. Take a second job, take a third job, work the weekends, work holidays. Just think about saving, because those $100 here, $200 there, they amount to big time money when you're investing it, and you get compounded interest. And if you're in a salary job and you can't work a second job, work as hard as you can at that specific job and become the default expert, the default salesperson, so you have negotiating power to get the pay raises, to get the promotions. Your focus should be as much money as possible going to savings. Other ways of saving is using your current assets. For example, if you live in a two-bedroom apartment, why not rent out the room, the extra room? That way you get a companion, a good friend, and you half the utilities are paid. If you've got internet at $50, now whoever's renting the room is paying $25 on that, and same with electricity and so on. And also, if you have a room, you could probably rent it out somewhere between $400 and $800 depending on where you live. When you start looking at those sums of money over a 10-year period with compounded interest, it amounts to a lot of money. And we'll look at that at the end of the video. So this is very important. Again, it's a mindset change. It's a mindset change to not want the latest things, to be able to share and just think about saving and getting financial freedom. It does require some certain sacrifices, or some people would consider sacrifice. However, once you reach that mindset change, it's not a sacrifice anymore. It becomes your default behavior. You don't feel that it's a sacrifice. Whether you have the newest iPhone or you buy a used Android phone on Facebook Marketplace, it doesn't feel like a sacrifice anymore. It feels like your default behavior. And that is where it's very important, that mindset change. Do not fall for the consumerism the state wants you to be in. Remember that the state by default wants you to be a slave. And what do I mean by slave? They want you to be a debt slave. They want you to borrow money. They want you to be that consumer. They want you to work the rest of your life. Your job is not to fall for it, not to fall for the advertising, not to fall for the latest fad, not to fall for those wants. And say to yourself, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be a slave. I'm going to find financial freedom. It'll take a few years, but you will eventually get there with a mindset change. So I just talked about iPhones as an example, but basically buy everything used. Do not buy new things. Do not buy new phones, new tablets. Don't buy new cars. Think about saving. Whatever you do, think about going to Marketplace. You can find things to a quarter, a third, a half, and some things are almost new and they're half the price of what it is new. So the amount of money you'll be saving by buying used, it's amazing when it goes from year to year. You'll be amazed at that. Again, yes, it does take some sacrifice, but that's just the mindset. Once you get used to this lifestyle, it's not a sacrifice anymore. I know I'm repeating myself, but it's a very important point here, and it's very important to take that with you, because in the beginning, it'll be hard. It'll feel like a sacrifice. You'll be, well, why am I doing this? I have the money. I can't have the new iPhone. I can't buy this shirt for $200. Just not worth it. If you want financial freedom, again, change your mindset. Another way I found very useful in saving money and putting money away is tracking my expenses. There are many apps on the phones, both Androids and iPhones, that track your expenses. One of them that I use is called Money Manager, and I find it very easy to use. Every time I do an expense, I just put it in there. And the reason I use Money Manager is because I live in the Philippines and it's basically a cash society, so it's easy to track that way. But there are many other apps in there, and everybody has a different situation, so just do the research on what app you want and try using it. They're free typically, and see if you like it and go from there. But the main thing is that you do track your expenses, because when you track your expenses from month to month, you'll see, God, I'm using $250 on this. Why am I using $250? I could be using $50 or no dollars. So that way you can start minimizing your expenses in many different areas and save even more. As an example, I love coffee, right? But even in the US, I never went to Starbucks. I wasn't about to pay $5, $6 for a cup of coffee when I could go down to the gas station, get it for $1.50, and I thought the coffee at the gas station was actually better than Starbucks. So it's, and you think, $3, $4, $5 is not much in a day, but and I'll show you later, when you start compounding that money and compounding the interest you would have earned on that money, or your return on investment on that money, it's amazing how much it becomes over 10 years. So don't be a sucker for consumerism. It's It's by design made to suck you in and keep you enslaved as a worker. Change your mindset. Change your habits will lead to freedom. Freedom from the state that wants to enslave you. And I said this and I'll say it again. It's really important. And as you are saving, invest, invest, invest. A few percent yield, a bit of return on investment over inflation will give you large gains over time. And you can see this on later in the video. I'm going to go through a website that actually shows you this. So I'm not a financial advisor by any means, but I just want to bring up a few facts about investing. Remember, the more riskier the assets, the more your return on your investments, or ROI. Myself, at my age, I tend to invest in less risky assets. I like to invest in a combination of assets to be diversified. Also, I invest in assets that are not leveraged, or their leverage is minimal, and they can withstand a downfall in the market. So what does leverage mean? Basically, think of buying a house. Let's say a house costs $300,000. You can buy one house, or you can buy 6 houses and put $50,000 down on each and borrow the rest of the money from the bank. The advantage with that is you can more than likely make much more money than if you just had one house. However, and this is a big, if there is a downturn in the market, you can maybe only rent out 4 of those houses, right? At 80% of the rent previously. Now, you owe the bank more money than you're bringing in. How long can you go with that before you reach a point where you have no more money? At that point, you'd basically be bankrupt and lose the initial investments of $300,000. So, basically, businesses are the same. There's something I like to invest in called REITs, R-E-I-T-S, REITs. And those are basically financial instruments where a company, for example an apartment REIT, would buy apartments and rent out apartments. Now you have REITs that are severely leveraged and you have REITs that are basically not leveraged. The same as the house example, the REITs that are leveraged would be in more danger of going bankrupt if there's a downturn in the market. However, if the market is going up, you're making much more money. So there are apartment REITs, hospital REITs, warehouse REITs, there's all kinds of REITs. There's even ETF REITs. What an ETF is a combination of different REITs. And that way it's a bit more secure than buying one individual REIT. I tend to do the research and buy a combination of different REITs. So instead of owning a house, I just buy a REIT. And they give you anywhere from 2 to 10% in return. Again, the more leverage, the more riskier, the more return. So it's all up to you how much risk you're willing to take. Whatever you do in investing, I would highly suggest that you diversify. Diversify in the industries, and within the industries, diversify in different companies. That way you're getting less return, but you're getting a more consistent return. So, but as I said in the beginning, I'm not a financial advisor. Everybody's situation will be different, and I would highly encourage you, if you know an advisor, a financial advisor, and preferably what they call a fiduciary financial advisor, meaning they have to take your best interest into account. I would go to them, and it's I would say it's money well spent if you go to them and spend an hour or two with them and get some good advice there, and look at your economical situation and what your assets are, your debits are, and where to go from here. So this is my favorite financial website. It's basically a website that aggregates your accounts. So basically, if you have multiple accounts, for example, stock accounts and bank accounts, you can have them all in one place and have a great overview of your assets and your debits. I log into this daily to make sure that everything's okay with my assets, and that nothing's been taken out that shouldn't be taken out. I can see any money from my bank that's been taken out. I can see whether my portfolio is growing or going down. So it's a great because it actually imports all your debits and assets from all these different places, bank accounts and stock accounts or brokers, I mean, and it also imports your the statements. So not the statements, but your daily usage of money from your bank, so you can see what you're using it on, and so on. This is the page that comes when you first open your personal capital, and I love this page because I can see straight away what my portfolio is doing, whether it's increasing or decreasing. And if I want more specification, I can go to overview, banking, investing, and I can go to holdings. I can go to performance and look at that. I'm not going to go too much into detail about this, but it's a very good web page, and best of all, it's free. And let me say, I've got a link if you want to open it up, and I do get a little incentive for that, but that's not why I recommend it, obviously. It's just a $20 deal that I get if you guys open up an account with them. And it's free. So I've had this personal capital for many years, since I think at least 2013, if not before, and I've used it almost on a daily basis, and I love it. I can't speak highly enough about it. So well recommended if you have multiple bank accounts or multiple brokers. Now, if you only have one broker like Schwab that you can use as a bank and investments, then really there's no point to this. But if you have multiple bank accounts and brokers, this is a great. And also if you have loans and all that, which I don't have any loans, so but if you did, you could also put that in here. So it's a great tool, it's secure, and I would highly recommend it. One of the things I really like about this, and that I've used a lot since 2013, is my retirement planner. And if you go to retirement planner, what it does is it runs through scenarios that you set up. I'm not going to go too much into this, but basically the scenarios that you set up are how much money you think you'll be using, what age you're going to retire, what potential income you have at certain ages. Like for me, I'll be taking Social Security at 62, and I know how much Social Security, so I plug that in there. And based on what you have, based on how much you have on the market, historical data, and it calculates a percentage of you reaching those goals. Like this goal that I put here, I only have a 50% chance of reaching, while this goal here, I have a 96% chance of reaching. So you can create multiple scenarios, as I have here, 5 scenarios, and you can actually compare different scenarios, retirement scenarios. There's also good tools with a withdrawal planner, retirement fee analyzer. The retirement fee analyzer is basically, it goes through your retirements, your 401ks, and tells you how much you're paying in fees and if you can lessen the fees by using different brokers and so on. And then another thing I like very much, especially if you have multiple brokers, again, this is a really good tool. You can do your investment checkup, and what it does there is basically goes through your brokers, through your bank, and tells you how much money you have in different assets, financial assets, how much money you have in cash, how much money you have in debit, and so on. And you can run different types of historical performance, future projections based on your assets, and your risk and return, allocation comparisons if you allocate to different things. So I can't, like I said earlier, I can't speak highly enough about this tool, and I would really recommend it. And it's not for the $20 I'm getting, but I'd really recommend this to anybody, again, who has multiple bank accounts, loans, brokers, different brokers, and so on. If you have all your money in one place, this is not necessary. But however, it is a good tool because it has many good ways of looking at your assets and debits and calculations and all that. So you could also use it if you only have one broker. It's very simple overview, and you can make it more complicated with more information, obviously. But it's a very, very good tool. Again, highly recommended. Now I also talked about savings and compounded interest, and there are many calculators in online about compounded interest and savings, and you just have to Google it and use one or the other calculator. They both basically work on the same formula. The layout is somewhat different. Here's a website that I'm using just to calculate how much compounded interest you can get, total savings with compounded interest you can get from saving a bit of money here and there. And one of the things we talked about was the having a cup of coffee at Starbucks every day costs $5 a day, which is basically $1,800 a year. And if you go to Starbucks once in a while, you'll order something else. So just let's call it $2,000 a year. And what is that over 10 years? Compounded interest. I'm assuming 5% interest. And since this is after tax, you're shopping, so 0% on your savings, on your investment there, on taxes. So let's go hit the next button, do the calculate, and see what you would get over 10 years. So for $5 a day at Starbucks over 10 years with compounded interest, you're looking at $26,000, which is roughly, let me pull up my calculator here, which is roughly, let's see, so it's roughly 50 pesos per dollar, and it was 26,414 times. So we're talking 1.3 million pesos. So you're able to save 1.3 million pesos over 10 years, which is quite a good savings. And you could buy a house, an okay house here, for about 3 million, and a really nice house for about 5 million. Now let's look at some other savings. For example, if you buy a used car instead of a new car, probably $200 a month in savings. That's 200 times 12, that's 2,400 a year. So, and over 10 years, what would that be? Now, assuming you change out your car once in a while. If you're the new type, you can probably change it every 5 or 6 years. And so that would be a total of about $32,000. So again, big savings. Now, if you had someone living with you in your apartment, you shared or you rented out a room like we talked about earlier. Let's say you're getting $600 there a month. 600 times 10, 6,000, 7,200. Just call it 8,000 a year. 8,000 a year over 10 years. Let's see what that is then. And with that's $105,000. That's over 5 million pesos. You could get a really nice house for 5 million pesos here. So with compounded interest, that's $105,000. So that's really good stuff. Now, let's put everything together. Let's say you rent out a room, call it 600. You buy a used car, that's 200 less, so that's 800. Let's say you cut out the coffee at Starbucks is another 150. That's 950. And let's say you do some other small stuff. So let's call it $1,200 in savings a month. So that's approximately, or that is 14,400 a year. Just call that 15,000 a year. And over 10 years, what's that amount to? With compounded interest at 5%. Let's see. That amounts to 198,000, basically 200,000. And that's 10 million pesos. Like I said, you can get a nice house for 5 million. You get a really nice house for 6 or 7 million. You still have 3-4 million to over just by saving. That's, I mean, just doing small things. Again, it's just a change in mentality here. And by doing this, you'll be way ahead of your peers. You know, you have a lifestyle change, a mentality change that I don't think will affect you in a negative way. I don't think it will make your quality of life any worse. I think it actually could make it better because your mentality changes completely and you focus on stuff that's more important. So these changes will make, or these savings will make big changes in your life. So I hope you can do it. I hope you can take an initiative and say to yourself, okay, I'm going to cut out this, I'm going to rent out a room, and make a plan. Go ahead and make a plan how you can achieve those savings, and then just start. Yeah, it's hard in the beginning, it really is, but once you've gone through it a month, 2, 3 months, it becomes a habit, and then a habit becomes you. So I hope you follow these guidelines, or I hope you do something to save more money and invest. Don't forget, it's really important to invest. And investment, that's a different chapter. What you need to invest in depends on your age, depends on your risk factors, and a lot of other things. And the best thing you can do is go to a financial advisor. And I'm by no means a financial advisor. I know quite a bit about stock and finances, but I don't like to give any advice. So don't ask me. The only thing I can say, I think I said it already. If I didn't, I'll say it again. Be careful with finance or financial instruments that are highly leveraged. And I talked about leveraging earlier on, so just be careful with that. And with that said, I guess I'll see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye.